Hello, my name is Van Smith, Managing Partner here at Smith Strong, and today I'd like to speak to you about how to prepare for your deposition or trial testimony in a divorce or custody case here in Virginia. And I'm joined by skilled trial attorney Laura Lee Miller here at Smith Strong. Laura Lee, it's good to be with you.
Good to be here.
And so, okay, they're now on our website, they're looking at our videos, frantically trying to prepare for their deposition or their trial testimony for a coming divorce or custody case this week, next week, and they don't want to say the wrong thing, they don't want to do the wrong thing, but they also want to put their best foot forward. So talk to the people out there about how they can best prepare for what's probably a nerve-wracking experience.
It is a nerve-wracking experience, and it's not an intuitive one, right? Giving deposition testimony and trial testimony is unlike anything else in the normal, everyday world that we all exist in, okay? This is giving testimony under oath. It's about responding to exactly the question that's asked. And the first step before you do anything else to prepare for your deposition is to talk to your counsel about it, okay? I have a whole tip sheet and I have lots of information that I need to give you in order to set you up for success for a deposition and for trial testimony. So the very first thing that we need to do is we need to have a pretty comprehensive meeting to let you know all of that information and get you in the right mindset to get ready to go for that process.
All right, sidebar, if you're taking notes, make sure you call the attorney in advance to set up a case preparation meeting. Go over your questions, go over the likely questions they'll ask you and your answers, not to rehearse, not to make it so it's just memorized, but to make sure you're fully prepared and telling the full story so you don't walk out of court forgetting something or kicking yourself because you forgot to say this or that. That was so important to the narrative. So it's important to really rehearse the truth and the story that you want to tell, right, Laura Lee?
Exactly. There are going to be themes that come along with every case. Those are the kind of key messages that we want to emphasize to the judge throughout the course of the whole trial, okay? That's something that I'm going to talk about in my opening argument, something that's going to come up in your testimony. I'm going to pull it out through other witnesses in their testimony, and then it's going to come up again in closing. Those sort of key home messages that are your home base throughout the trial process are that we have the opportunity to emphasize those in a deposition context too. So we want to make sure that we have time, you and I, to go over them, make sure that you know what those core messages are so that we can emphasize them in the right way.
So knowing your themes, knowing, as Laura Lee said, your core messages are key preparation techniques. Rehearsing in a case preparation meeting, truly vital. But let's talk about some misfires. Let's talk about errors. Let's talk about when they go off the guardrails, skid off the road and tumble down the side of the hill. What should they avoid? What are some big pitfalls that you see other counsel and witnesses for opposing parties make where you go, wow, that just really sunk their case?
Right. The biggest mistake that I see people make is not really listening to the questions that are being asked. And this applies at trial just as much as at deposition. If you don't understand a question, if a question is vague, if it could mean more than one thing, if it doesn't really tell you what time period they're asking about, and you just answer it anyway, odds are you're going to give a bad answer to that question because it was a bad question from the start. So instead of trying to give a bad answer to a bad question, you can ask, I don't understand your question. Can you rephrase it, please? Or could you repeat that in a different way for me? I didn't fully understand it. And that will get you off on a better start.
Great point. Don't worry about looking silly or I don't want to look dumb or I don't want to look like I'm not prepared or as smart as these other people. Think nothing of that. You will establish credibility if the court realizes that what you're really trying to do with a clarifying question is really understand with precision what they're asking so you can give a factual answer that will actually help the court understand the story you're trying to tell. So don't be afraid to ask follow-up questions.
Yeah, and I would say too that it's really important that you are only answering the question that's asked and not giving more information than what the question asks. And an example that I always give is if you get the question, what time is it? The answer isn't, oh, it's 2 o'clock. I need to leave in 30 minutes so that I can go and pick up my daughter from daycare. That wasn't what was asked. The question was just, what time is it? So the answer was just, it's 2 o'clock.
That's a great point. When I have attorneys from Smith Strong coming back and I say, "How was court?" the one thing we don't want to hear is, "And then they kept talking." Remember that. Just make sure you understand what's being asked, answer just what is being asked, and then stop talking. Very important, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what other errors or pitfalls should they keep in mind, or just general pointers for someone preparing for a deposition or trial testimony?
I always say that the object of the game for a witness is to give the truthful answer in as few words as possible as it takes to do it. Okay. And that means that we're not trying to play hide the ball. Okay. We want to give truthful answers. We don't want to intentionally hide facts. But at the same time, if you give more information than what's being asked for, you're just going to make the deposition process longer for you. You're going to make your trial cross longer for yourself. It just doesn't help you get to the end goal, which for most people, frankly, in deposition is to get out of the room, right? But ultimately, at the end of the day, we want you to listen to the question, answer it truthfully, do it in a short manner, and don't guess, don't speculate. Okay, those are other big pitfalls that I see is when someone decides, well, I think I know what they're asking me. I think I know what they're getting at. I'm going to run with that because that's going to invite a whole other kind of parade of horribles.
I had a case many years ago now, over 10 years ago, and it's still every time I think about depositions and trial testimonies and preparing, I have that witness in my mind. It was a stepfather, former military. We'd rehearsed not to coach him on what to say, but just to make sure he was prepared to say the truth and understand what he was trying to get across. He was confident, he was calm, he was prepared going into court. And then all of a sudden, cross-examination, where the opposing counsel gets to ask questions. And intentionally, very skillfully, the opposing counsel sussed out a combative nature. And then he sensed the blood in the water and he pounced and just brought out this combative side of this stepdad to a point where the court likely became convinced that he was so combative and so toxic that he was the problem in this custody case. And it really, knowing all the facts behind the scenes, was not the case. So, talk to me about how they can prepare for what the other side might throw at them, cross examinations, questions that really might bring out a shadow side that they don't intend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always waiting for the first law school in America to start offering like psychology classes as part of lawyer training in law school because sometimes it feels like the other side is playing psychological games with you, that they're trying to find exactly what buttons to push. And frankly, a lot of us are really good at it and it can get under your skin. And the object for you is to not allow that to happen under any circumstances, okay? A deposition can be a long and a grueling process. I am there if I'm defending your deposition to help you manage that process, okay? So, part of what I do, for instance, is in my depositions, I ask my witness if they need a break every hour, one time at least every single hour. And if I tell my witnesses in our prep sessions, if I ask you to take a break, it's because I want you to take a break. And your answer to that question is, yes, I would like to take that break now. And that's not only because, that might be because you're doing a great job, but I want you to keep doing a great job so that you can go walk around, get a breath of fresh air, clear your head, get a sip of water, use the restroom, something just to keep you in that kind of calm, cool, comfortable demeanor that we want you to be having during your testimony.
Exactly. And I think the key takeaway here is if you feel your blood pressure rising, if you feel like they are getting the better of you, pause, ask them to restate the question. Make sure first you understand the question. Take a sip of water, maybe ask for a bathroom break, regroup, take your time between answers, speak slowly, don't over communicate, just answer the question, and then don't give more than is needed. Oftentimes, what will happen is witnesses will keep talking when they get upset and they'll expose more than they're trying to in that moment. So just be aware of the techniques and psychological pitfalls to avoid as well. Any final tips for folks as they're probably trying now to set their clothes out for the night before their deposition, lay everything out almost like a job interview? What any final little tidbits that they should have in their mind for mindset coaching for this?
Yeah, just remember that at the end of the day, You are there to talk about facts. You are not someone who's there to argue the case. That's my job. You're not someone who's there to offer expert testimony about what is the right thing to do in a certain scenario. You're there to talk about what you know. And so that means you already know the answers. You just need to deliver them in a calm, cool, comfortable way, short, truthful, to the point, get in, get out, and then you're done.
We care about your case. We want you to be successful. Make sure you're with attorneys that communicate with you, prepare you well, and advocate strongly. And then also seek settlement where at all possible. But if settlement is truly not possible, make sure you have a skilled advocate that's there by your side, preparing you every step of the way. Laura Lee Miller, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.